This is Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by top trainer Dominic Ingle. Dom, how you doing?
Am I a top trainer now? I'm always the top trainer. Now we had the Kell Brook calm win.
Well, now Kell Brook's retired. Are you a top trainer? Got to judge you on other fighters now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and I might be training 3 top fighters, but we'll just sorting out at the minute. So that'll be a bit of news for you.
Who would you have a conversation with that would enable you to train 3 top fighters?
Well, they're not British anyway, but that's another thing. But they're all high quality fighters. So obviously my reputation's travelling far and wide.
For better or worse, perhaps.
For better, I think. Like I say, I think looking at the Kell Brook fight, I think maybe, I'm not sure you, but a lot of people thought that Khan fight and Kell Brook and Khan way past the best, and maybe some people do, but it still, excited people, and it was still a great spectacle. And considering they were both nearing 36 years of age, which is very old in boxing terms, it did live up to expectations, and it wasn't, like I've said before, like watching 2 aging porn stars trying to roll back the years. So, it was a good fight.
Good stuff. Now, Kell's made the decision to retire. He revealed that over the weekend. How long have you known, and how instrumental were you in the decision?
No, I mean, to be honest, I didn't know, but he never said to me, I'm going to make this announcement, because that's never the way we've worked, I don't think. He obviously was thinking about it since he boxed Khan, and we had a couple of conversations, and I said to him, look, the only thing I said to him was, look, if you're going to fight again, the only fight I'd really want to be involved with you would be Conor Benn. That's it, because of Conor Benn's name, and he's coming through and it's similar ways. Forget Eubanks. I think Eubanks has passed his sell-by date. I think he's dined out on his name for too long, and I don't think Kell should have even given I do believe Kell would have beat him. I don't think Kell should even take the risk, giving somebody an advantage. So I said, unless you're going to do that fight, don't, let's not do it. And that's where I think he said, well, we'll ask Eddie for 10 million. If they really want to do it that much, put the money where the mouth is. He kind of priced himself out. I think knowing full well he wasn't going to fight again. And I said, just have a think about it, Ella, as far as we're all concerned, the team and everybody, we're happy how it's finished. You're never going to top that night in Manchester. And it's a great way to go out, because there's always the feeling that you might want to go again. I said, but you're not going to get that buzz again. We had a great camp. It was a great night. Let's just leave it at the top and let people talk about that. And even now, of all the fighters I've been involved with, Dana, even Nazim Hamid, I think that fight for me was probably was the best. And so many people since then, stopping me in the street, we saw Kell Brook fight. People who aren't particular boxing fans as well. So it went far and wide, that fight. So many people now. I've probably had more people recognizing me as Kell Brook's trainer and mentioning Kell Brook than ever. Purely because of that fighter, because of the Khan, his Olympic achievements, and because he's a well-known household name, and he's also got his own TV show. So it's even now people saying what a fantastic night and what a great night it was.
Have you spoken to him since he made the announcement? And if so, what's his kind of mindset like? Is he at peace with it?
No, do you know what? I hadn't spoken to him, but this is what a lot of people think. They think that we kind of have a daily or weekly conversation. We don't. We all the way generally for his career. It's always been, we've had training camps, or he's been in the gym training. Even between fights, he might be we talk, but after fights, we don't tend to talk. We're all in a group chat, and he'll drop a message in every now and again and then disappear. And we kind of leave him to his own devices, because, we don't want to be in each other's pockets. And that's why we can always get along on training camp when we're spending 10 and 12 weeks together. We can manage that, because we know at the end of it, it's going to be quiet and we're not going to have much contact. So every now and again we do, but we don't. I just said to him, glad you made the right decision. And that was it. So we kind of leave him to himself. And he might, at the minute, to be honest, last week he had laryngitis, so he's not being well. Maybe because he put it overdid it on his birthday bash. But he'll pull into the gym at some point and we'll have a chat. But there's never any desperation in it. It's just one of them kind of things. He turns up, you see him, maybe you don't. But like I say, he's always there in the back of your mind, type of thing.
Based on his accomplishments and how long you guys have spent together, is he the best you've been with as a head coach?
what can I say? Yeah, probably, because I mean, Brendan was responsible for the others. Apart from probably Junior Witter, you know, I kind of did 90% of the work with Junior Witter. But, you know, Junior Witter was, for me, an exceptional fighter. Never got the credit he deserved, but he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. Whereas Kell Brook has got that likability about him. He got that KO power. He got that like cheeky chappy type of personality, and very unassuming and very down to earth. And you know, it was an exciting journey with him, because we started with Kell at 10, whereas Junior came into the gym about 23. So I would say that's probably closest to my heart, because I've spent so much time with him through a lot of people's careers. Johnny Nelson, Junior Witter, Nazim Hamid, all the fighters. Kell's been coming through all that time. So I would say that he's real, you know, he's probably really my first ever world champion, so to speak, solo. So it's a, you know, it's that kind of achievement that you look back on. And it was, you know, there's been ups and downs, but it's been a great ride, and it's been quite enjoyable as well. Probably the most enjoyable than any of the fighters, because, you know, we've done things together, cycling and been on long training camps. We never really went away with the guys for longer than a week. So Johnny Nelson, Junior Witter, we might do a week here and there. But with Kell Brook, we've done like, you know, 8 and 10 week camps, or you know, away. And you know, you have to get used to somebody. You have to be able to get used to them, and not get bored or get frustrated or not be with them. It's always been quite easy training camps with him. We've had a laugh. It's been a laugh as well, but he always gets the work done. So I'd say, yeah, it's probably been my most enjoyable experience with a fighter, to be honest.
What will his legacy be, do you think?
I'm not quite sure. I think his legacy, personally, I would think that when he was a boy at school and he wasn't doing very well, and he came, you know, my dad went to his school to talk to the teachers, and boxing kept him on track. It made him behave. He never really had educated himself in that sense, but he did say to the teachers, look, I don't need an education. I'm going to be world champion. And they'll kind of, yeah, right, of course you will. But that's one thing I'll say about Kell Brook. There's very few people who say it, who actually believe in achieving. It's very difficult as well. And he did go back when he won the world title to the same teacher. They welcomed him back and said, you know, it's not impossible. Your dreams aren't impossible. And I think Kell Brook, it was so important for him to realize his dreams. And he could, you know, he was quite capable of that. When you look at him at 14 and 15-year-old, he's quite capable of becoming a world champion. So for him, you know, I think the legacy is that what he set out to achieve, he did. You know what I mean? He became a world champion, and it took him a long time. And also, you know, to be able to fill out football stadiums like Bramall Lane and arenas like the O2 in London and Manchester, it's an achievement. It is. So anything else, you know, his legacy, I think that he entertained, he took the challenges on, and he wasn't afraid to go out on his shield sometimes. And, you know, considering the injuries and the ups and downs he's done remarkably well to get through it all.
Now, from your point of view, you talked about the impact of the Khan fight. You were there in America when Kell went over and took the world title for the first time from Sean Porter. Which one is kind of more fulfilling and satisfying for you out of those two nights?
The Sean Porter fight was more of a relief because it had been so long, and, you know, we'd had the ups and downs with the Alexander fight, and I couldn't really take it on board, really, because there was so much other stuff going on, what kind of killed the vibe at the end of the day. I was just glad to get it out of the way. With the Khan fight, it was more relaxed and more enjoyable. Because Kell did train very, very hard for the Sean Porter fight, but it was hard work for him to train hard, you know, just the circumstances and everything surrounding that fight. But with the Khan fight, obviously years later, Kell was more mature. The training camp was a lot easier to keep. He kind of kept himself on track, because that was the one fight. You know, he knew he had to box for the world title, and he knew he had to beat Porter. It was a bit intense. But the Khan camp was relaxed, but still a good camp, and he got the work done. I don't think we could have had the Khan camp for the Sean Porter camp. We couldn't. But I think Kell was more relaxed with himself and just more motivated, and he really, really did want to have that fight. It was almost like he couldn't wait for Christmas, where some people, when they're going to be in a big fight, they're a bit nervous and they anticipate a bit too much. But with Kelly, was almost like, I'm going to win this fight. I'm going to get this present what I've asked my parents for, you know, this big expensive bike. I can't wait, really. There was no apprehension or thinking, I'm not going to win this fight. There was never, through the camp, there was never a doubt in his mind he was going to win. And that was a good thing. So, I think I'd have to say the Khan fight for me, because the way he approached it and the what he'd been through in his career, the ups and downs, and how even then at 36 he got himself into tremendous shape and finished Khan off in front of 26,000 people in Manchester, in front of the home fans, in a fight that British fans have wanted for a long, long time.
Now, I've seen a few people this week suggesting what would have happened, or speculating on what would have happened if Kell had never taken the Golovkin fight. Obviously, a couple of weights up at the time. We know what happened since with the back-to-back injuries against Golovkin and Spence. What's your kind of perspective on that? Could his career have panned out a bit differently?
No, I think, look, he had to take that fight. People say, he ruined his career. But the thing what was ruining his career was not getting the fights that he wanted, the Danny Garcias, Keith Thurman, those type of fights, because they were all ringside when Kell booked Sean Porter. I think they were all expecting that Porter was going to win. And when Kell beat Porter, they all kind of like, you could see that thinking that weren't supposed to happen, because they'd never really seen Kell Brook at his peak. They'd seen him in life and death with certain fighters, and, a bit like, not like Bivol really, but, nobody really expected Bivol to beat Canelo. But Kell Brook was never performing at his 100% best, really, before he boxed Sean Porter. And for Sean Porter, he did. And I think the other guys didn't want any part of that. So the opportunities weren't coming for Kell. He would have been sat around waiting for these big fights. He was getting bored boxing the Jojo Dans and the Beziers. He didn't want to be fighting those type of guys. He needed a challenge, and he needed to be fearful of who he was fighting. And, he relished the challenge against Golovkin. And look, people say I'm mad. I honestly believe that Kell Brook, if he hadn't got the eye socket, I don't think Golovkin was 100% right on that night. But I think Kell Brook, it wasn't beyond possibility of him beating Golovkin, and people say, absolutely no chance. But he could have beat Golovkin. He didn't get a massive amount of notice for that fight because it was quite, on the fly when Eddie mentioned it. Maybe a bit more preparation and being a bit lighter coming into that fight might have made a difference. But Kell came out afterwards and said, you know what, when I got stopped, apart from the idea, because the shots what he was throwing in was skimming me. He says they were losing power because I think I'd taken his best shots early on. But that's, all speculation, and he got a good payday from it. And don't forget, he came back, trained, boxed Spence, months later. Get fair play to him for that. Because if you look at, other fighters who've had their eye sockets damaged, have never come back. They never survived one, let alone two, like Kell did. So I think Kell had to do that for his own sanity, to keep himself in the mix. And he was still world champion. He boxed Spence. And I do believe, again, certain things in that camp building up to that fight, injury and illness, he got into that fight at 80%. If he'd have been 100%, 95%, I do believe that he would have beat Spence. And look what Spencer's doing now to everybody. You know what I mean? So I sometimes kick myself because I think, and he does, thinking, well, what if? But that's how boxing pans out. He got his other eye socket done. I think he was in front of the time, and it still didn't deter him. He still came back. So he's had to come through a lot of adversity in his career, to get where he's got. So I think he'll be known as the fighter who took the challenges and never shied away from anybody, because he never did. So that kind of sums up the Golovkin situation. That was a fight where he made the money on, where he would never have to fight again, and that's what it's all about, Danny. That. No good having all the belts on the mantelpiece. If your skin, look how many fighters end up broke. You're putting your life and your health at risk. You've got to have something to show for the end of it. You've got to have the money, so that in later life you're not struggling and being in a down and out place like so many fighters are.
Do you see that as part of your responsibility? Because I know your dad did. That they're well looked after, as well as the fact that they're trained well.
Yeah, of course, because, my dad always used to say to me, and I'll go back to the Golovkin fight, when I'm screaming, trying to throw the towel in, and the referee's so engrossed in what's happening, you're not supposed to throw the towel into the ring. You're supposed to wave it. I'd say throw it at his feet. But I already knew a few rounds before that Kell was, there's something wrong with him from what he was telling me. But, he was doing all right. I thought keep him for a few more rounds, see what happens. But ultimately, you've got 20,000 people screaming, and at the end they're all booing and shouting and calling. I'm not concerned because, these people, I don't know these people. Kell Brook, I've known him since a 10-year-old child. And you've got that responsibility. You've got to have that responsibility, because if it was my child, I want them looking after in the same way. And my dad used to say to me, Dominic, imagine these fighters are your kids. What would you do? What would you do in that situation? I have had parents saying to me, of fighters, they're going to go out on the shield and they're going to do this, and they've got it's boxing. You're going to get and I'm thinking to myself, this is the parents talking here. And like, yeah, whatever. Like at the end of the day, yeah, they might want to make that decision, but it's my responsibility, because the most fighters I've ever trained have never, wanted to quit. They've especially Kell Brook. Even afterwards, he was questioning my decision to pull him out of the Golovkin fight until he got the scans, and the surgeon said, a few more punches on that, you'd have probably been finished. Your career would have probably been finished. So, I made the right, in hindsight, I made the right choice. And that's the way I look at all my fighters. Boxing's a sport. When I hear the likes of Eubanks and his dad saying, oh, you're in there to die, and it's a do or die situation. No, it's not. It's a sport. You're not there to get killed. So, that's my responsibility. That's the way we were brought up. And it'll always be the same. That no win is worth anybody's health or life in boxing, and anybody tells you any different, they're just talking ridiculous.
And Kell Brook sails off into the sunset, faculties intact, plenty of money in the bank, which is great. Who's left behind? You've got Barry, obviously, another one.
Yeah, we've got Kid Galahad, we've got a kid called Brad Goldsmith, Jake Petit, Danny Morrell, all different levels. We've always had different level fighters. People come and go. We've had Liam Williams, Willie Hutchinson, Billy Joe Saunders. They come and they go. And like I said, I'm in talks now with a promoter who's got 3 very high-profile fighters who I might be training. We just got to work that one out. So they come and they go. And when you've operated at the level I've operated at, when you take a fighter like Billy Joe Saunders who comes to you and he's already at a high level, people expect you to be able to perform to make these kids win, but it so often can go wrong. You can be handed a high-level fighter. You can actually ruin him if you don't know what you're doing. So there's a lot of responsibility there. Same with Liam Williams. When Liam Williams came to me, he come off back-to-back losses to Liam Smith. Liam Smith is now doing really, really well. Liam Williams had a great 3 years with me, got right to another world title fight with a legitimate world champion in Andrade. I don't think he boxed his best against Eubank. I don't think that was the Liam Williams that we love, that we love to see fighting. So you get handed these high-level fighters, and it's as hard a job with those fighters as it is bringing the ones from the bottom, because it's always minefields, because sometimes the ones at the top think they know what they're doing, they've got it all worked out, but they haven't, so you've got to get past their ego of them trying to tell you what to do. The fighters at the end of the day, they're not trainers. Yeah, they know how to fight, but 99% of them don't know how to train, and they don't know how to do the nutrition. They don't know how to do the weight cut. And as a trainer, I know how to do all those things. People say to me, "Well, you never box." Well, I'm not boxing, am I? I don't need to know how to box. I need to know how to train people. So, as one door closes, as in Kell Brook retiring, there's always another one opens. As long as I want to do it, and I'll be training high-level fighters. People see the value in what you do. I could have Kell Brook, 36-year-old, 2 broken eye sockets, a near-death experience in Tenerife, and he still puts in a good performance. You've got to know what you're doing.
What is the latest with Barry? Obviously, he lost the world title to Kiko Martinez. We thought there was going to be a rematch quite soon after that. That didn't transpire. What's happening with him?
I mean, he's obviously a disappointing situation, because Barry worked so hard to get to that position. But realistically, we needed him to win the fight against Warrington way back then, because he was already outgrowing the weight. And he had to wait around for so long for the challenge against Jazza Dickens. He won that fight. But I think the signs were there then that really should move up, but you don't want to move up when you're world champion. So, things happen. Look at Warrington against, Lara. Look how that worked. He got knocked out. Then it was a draw. And then he's come back and he's beat Martinez. It was a brutal battle. Both, jaws broken, punched up, everything else. But you have to recognise as a trainer, Barry outgrown the weight. And I think it was purely down to the weight situation why he got stopped. So he's going to move up, and he's hoping to fight in July. We're just talking with Eddie Hearn now about his next fight, and regroup and go again. And he's only 32, he's still got a few years left in him. So that's the situation there. And like I say, we've got a couple other kids at the lower levels coming through. That's another journey, another process. And in the meantime, you wait, people come along and they want you to train them. It's always going to be that way, I think.
Talking of fighters heading off into retirement, Tyson Fury claims he's now retired after beating Dillian Whyte at Wembley Stadium. What did you make of that fight? And do you buy the fact that he's not going to come back?
Well, like I say, no disrespect to Dillian Whyte, because obviously he's had some great fights. But, I did say in a previous interview that Tyson Fury made him look like he'd never been a boxer. But Tyson Fury would probably do that with Anthony Joshua as well. He'd do it with a lot of top-level fighters because his style is so hard to adapt to. Unless you're somebody like Deontay Wilder, who's prepared to take a risk, who's a kind of same height, same reach, and can get in. Dillian Whyte was always on the end of the jab. He was always too far away. And when he did get in close, Tyson just leant on him. You could see Dillian Whyte thinking, he's a lump, this fella. That kind of drained him. So, Tyson's very very good at, nullifying what people have got. He's very good boxing brain. I think, personally, I think he has had enough. It is a bit of a, where he's at up and down in his weights and the career he's had. I think he has achieved a lot. People probably say he hasn't, but it's a bit of a kind of a carnival when he gets with a bit of a circus, and I think he'd probably be glad to put it behind him and try and live a normal life. Because you're always seeing a media circus, everything he does, everything he says, and probably he's made his money. He probably just want to spend time with his kids because he will have been away from home a long time. So what do you have kids for? He's got 5 or 6 kids, hasn't he? So he's got the money now. He's only young. He's only 32. Why not spend the next 30 or 40 years just living life and enjoying yourself, keeping fit, but spend time with people who matter? Boxing fans are fickle. They come and they go. But your family's around forever, so you've got to kind of build them relationships. So many fighters, when they finish boxing, they split with the missus, they estranged from the kids. So you're doing it for your kids and your family in the first place. So you make all the money, and then they're no longer there. What's the point? Because, like he says, he gives so much money away as well. Do you know what I mean? And he has. So he's not like he's desperate for the money. So it's probably a good decision. And I hope he does stay retired, because realistically, apart from more money, what is in? He's got plenty.
That's a fair point. You mentioned Bivol and Canelo earlier. How surprised on a scale of 1 to 10 were you by the result?
I think I just went with everybody else. People ask me, I went, Canelo, because I've seen Bivol, and I once saw him years ago in Russia. I had Bob Ajasev fighting over there. Me and Galahad was in a gym, and Bivol was in the bag. He says, "What weight do you think he is?" I went, "Maybe light middleweight, middle." He went, "No, he's light heavyweight. He's quite good." Barry's up on the fighters. I watched him. I thought he's not bad, but he boxed. I think he boxed for the world title on that bill, and he came out of the blocks fast. He had the guy down in the 6th and the 8th, and then kind of faded in the last 4 rounds. And he's obviously been winning. He beat Craig Richards on points and other fighters. He also beat the guy who beat Bob Ajasev that night.
Was it Salamov?
Sorry?
Salamov?
Yeah, Salamov. It was a tough guy. So he kind of, I think for Bivol, obviously Canelo brought the best out in him.
So yeah, you were saying just before we got cut off that Bivol raised his game for Canelo.
Yeah, he raised his game. And like I say, you think that Canelo kind of dined out a little bit on Kovalev, who was way past his best. It was a light heavyweight. I think in his prime, Kovalev would have given him a different fight. And maybe they got carried away, and maybe Reynoso, training other fighters like Valdez, kind of took his eye off the ball. And the saying is a good big and will always beat a good little one. And, it just shows you people were raving about Canelo. Look, he's a good fighter. He has boxed everybody. And unfortunately, Bivol won't get the credit. He won't become the pound for pound because he beat Canelo. But realistically, he should. And that's how boxing happens sometimes, whether somebody's taken their eye off the ball or they've got overconfident or whatever it is, I don't know. But, you know, he got beat. I've always said, you know, Canelo's not what everybody's making him out to be. He's very, very good. Very, very good. But he's not on the Mayweather level, you know what I mean, where Mayweather will adapt and beat anybody. So, you know, fair play to Bivol. He's done great, and it keeps it interesting. Obviously, I think Canelo's going to still be world champion, isn't he? So it'll see what that's done to his confidence or whatever. So yeah, so it keeps it interesting. It shakes up a little bit, and you know, let's see how it affects Canelo. I mean, I still don't see any reason why, if he was going to fight Golovkin, he can't, because you know, maybe you can tell me, but you know, Golovkin isn't the fighter he was. I think he's still got his punch power. He's still got his boxing ability. I think he has slowed down a lot, and he's getting hit with a lot more shots. He did a great job on Morata, but obviously Golovkin's now 40 odd years old, so he's still a good fight. So makes you wonder why people say you can't fight him.
Well, he's still the undisputed champion at super middleweight, isn't he?
Exactly.
So there's every reason. Yeah. But I think his pride kind of makes him want an immediate rematch with Bivol, which may not be the most sensible option.
I don't think so, because I don't think there's anything he could have done. If he was going to do anything, he would have been, you know, he would have done it then. You know, what's he done? Underestimated him? Not, you know, why would you underestimate somebody like, you know, at Canelo's level? At Canelo's level, why would you ever underestimate anybody? But if you look at back over time, it's like Cole Frixton. I underestimated George Groves because I sparred him a few times. I didn't do my normal thing. Once you get to that level of being a top level fighter, you can't underestimate anybody. You know, and I think that's probably where Mayweather came in. No matter what level he boxed at or whatever guys he boxed, he always addressed each fight as if he was going to get beat. And that's the thing. You can never get complacent when you're champion.
Good stuff. Dom, always really appreciate your time. Send our best wishes to Kell. Although, as you pointed out, you don't speak to him every day. So,
yeah, well, like I say, he pops his head up every now and again in the group chat. We get concerned when he leaves the group chat, which he does very rarely, but he's still there. So, yeah, we'll catch up with him at some point. We might go out for a bike ride in the summer. I think he'll always do a little bit of training, keep himself in shape. Because what else is there? You know, it's a hard habit to break when you've been doing it since 10 years old. He's been doing it 26 years. It's a hard habit to break. So hopefully, you know, he has a great retirement. He enjoys himself and he lives life a little bit.